We good? We ready to start? Who ate lunch? Who is starving? Okay, sorry. I did not bring enough food to share. All I brought was gum. This is the session. If this is not the session you thought it was, now is your chance to exit D-plane. Before we begin, thank you for joining us. Thank you to our title sponsors, Amazon, Capital One Cafe, Dell for Startups, and the Downtown Denver Partnership. This is part of the growth track. Thank you to Slalom. Allison, thank you for making this free for us. Obviously, you all agree to the code of conduct, so please don't throw anything at me. I'm not as fast as George Bush. I will not dodge your shoe. And if you want to share stuff, you can share stuff as well. I'd say take pictures, but I hope you have your Zoom lens. And stay classy. Shall we begin? Great. Okay. You have maybe heard of some of these books. You have maybe read some of these books. You have at least maybe seen some of these authors tweet, but this is a whole lot of stuff about how brands grow. Seth Godin, Jim Collins up in my hometown of Boulder, Good to Great, growth hacking, the laws of brands, Gary Vaynerchuk. There are a lot of opinions about how brands grow. I too have read many of these books. I was once a scientist, got into advertising, and started to say, well, how does it really work? I was looking for an answer. It's the question that drives us. It's the question that brought you here. I was seeking the question just like you. And the question is, what's real and what's real bullshit? So that's where I come in. I run a little consulting firm called Applied Brand Science. I was a scientist in a past life, got a PhD studying urban ecology, human evolution, complex systems theory. So if you want to geek out, I would love to do that. And then I got into advertising, worked at some firms like Crispin Porter Bogusky. Bless you, bless you, bless you. You okay? Okay. The Integer Group, 72 and Sunny. And while in advertising, I started to say, well, what's true? What's real? What's not? What's real? What's real bullshit? And my science side impeded on my advertising side. And so I went on a long journey, a walkabout, to figure out what is really true in marketing, branding, and advertising. And that's what you'll see today is the culmination of 30 years of that exploration. And that's just the scratching the surface of the books that went into this. So that's where I come in. So let's start, though, with something familiar to you all, something close to our hearts, our asses. Who here uses toilet paper? Who, during the pandemic, has discovered a bidet? Oh, yeah. So you're part of the 3% of Americans that do not buy toilet paper. I always wondered about that. Toilet paper has a 97% household penetration. Like, who are the other 3%? So I have some questions for you. What's your favorite brand? Charmin. Cottonelle. Who gives a crap? Huh? Crap. That is a brand? That is a brand. The brand is called Who Gives a Crap. Okay. How many of you have a relationship with your toilet paper brand? Yes? Mufa? What's your brand? It's made out of bamboo. Bim Bamboo. Bam Bamboo? Bim Bamboo. And you've got a relationship with this brand. Yeah? Have you connected with them? Do you follow them on social media? Do you go visit the warehouses? Okay. Okay. So you haven't spoken with them, but you like their mission. And they're interested in using bamboo instead of paper, wood pulp, trees. Who makes the most eco-friendly toilet paper? 7th generation? Maybe, because I can't think of anyone else. Okay. Which toilet paper brand has a brand purpose that you know of? Bamboo. Okay, back to bamboo again. Also feminism as part of their purpose. Okay. Any other brands? What about the one with the bears? What's that one? Charmin. Do they have a purpose? They're the number one selling toilet paper. Apparently people only buy from brands with purpose, so I don't know what's going on there. Okay, well, this is interesting. Who has shopped for toilet paper in the past year? Okay. Have you done the toilet paper math at the shelf? Well, you know what I'm talking about? Mega rolls equals how many normal rolls equals jumbo rolls. How many plies is it? How many sheets per roll, per ply, per sheet, percent? And then there's the coupon. So that's a lot of math. And a lot of us don't got time for that. And if you don't have time for that, but you want to do it, there is a website for you where you have to type in all your number of rolls, price, coupons, etc. Oh, you can also put in a quality rating. And it gives you a grade on your toilet paper about how good it is. So if you don't got time to do toilet paper math, someone has solved it for you. But I'll bet most of you aren't going to go to this website. And not because the UX is crap, but because we don't got time for that. Who's got time to go to a website to figure out the grade on our toilet paper? Who? Anyone? Anyone here? Like, ooh, what's that website, Ethan? Ethan, can I get the URL? Right. This is very common. We are lazy. We have lazy brains, and we do the least amount possible. It's called being a cognitive miser or a mental miser. There's a whole lot of science behind this. We're like the kid in the back of the class that does just barely enough to get a D, maybe a C. I'm looking at you guys. Back of the room. There you go. Do you bring enough coffee for everybody? Okay. This does not just happen with things like toilet paper, these small purchases. This happens with big purchases. Let's say you fall in love with, I don't know, the new Rivian, the adventure truck. Oh, Katie's like, I want one. Or do you have one? You want one. Not yet. You want to want one, but you don't want one yet. Okay. Well, they're 80 grand, so I don't know your budget, but. So the Rivian looks awesome, but there are a couple questions. Who has not heard of Rivian? Okay, this is the first time you've seen this truck, right? So is this some fly-by-night Kickstarter that's going to be like, we guarantee it for life, and you're like, your company is 6 months old. Who knows? So how do we do our research? Who's bought a car recently? A vehicle, I should say. Okay, a few of you. Did you look at the crash test ratings? Maybe? No? Yes, definitely. Did you check the electrical system? Spark plugs? Huh? This is all electric. That's all it's got is an electrical system, right? Did you look at the shocks or struts? Quality of those? How about the dealer network? No. This is maybe the second or third biggest purchase most Americans make, most people make. And we give it passing effort, kind of like the people in the back of the room. We do just enough. Just enough. And we go to a website that does a little better than Rate Your TP, you know, like Edmunds or Blue Book, and they rate the car for us. And okay, so we did that. That's just enough. You know what it turns out actually affects your choice of car? It's not the shocks and struts, not the dealer network. It's the sound the door makes when it closes. Shunk. And the feel of the door. Shunk. That actually has a massive an impact on the car you pick. And most of us don't even know it. We're unaware of it. But you know who is aware of it? Emar from BMW. Thanks a lot, Emar. You just made me buy a BMW. Emar is an engineer, a sonic engineer, and he does not just design the sound of the engine, which, of course, the BMW has a nice certain sound to its engine, but they design the sounds all the buttons make, the sound that the window makes, right? What note is that? And the sound the door makes when it shuts. So a couple really important things here. First of all, we are oblivious to a lot of the things that drive us. But second of all, when we get a hard question, like, is this Rivian a good truck? Is this a good brand? We replace that with an easy question. Like, what does the door sound like? Does it feel reassuring? I can touch and hear that. I have no clue about, the support structure of the dealer network of Rivian. That's abstract. I have no clue about the shocks and struts of the Rivian. That's too obtuse for me. Those are hard questions, so we replace them with easy questions, even if the easy questions are bad and dumb. One of the easy questions is, what do my friends drive? Another easy question is, have I heard of it before? Those are easy questions. So if you're going to buy toilet paper and you see bamboozle, bamboobies, bamboo, okay, bamboobies is different. Those are prosthetics for women who've had mastectomies. No, bamboobies is not that. Nursing products, okay. Okay, sorry. My wife has knitted knockers as her prosthetic. But, okay, bamboo. We're never going to get out of this. We're going to be talking about bamboo all day. If you go to the store and you see bamboo on the shelf, how likely are you to pick it compared to something you've always seen, like the one with the baby with the wings, the angel one? You see the angel one, it's familiar. So a hard question is, what is this bamboo? Is it going to scratch my ass? Is it actually as eco-friendly as they claim? Is it really have that mission of supporting women? Or do they just say it? Kind of like that bank that put Fearless Girl in Wall Street. Turns out that company was not so supportive of women. But those are hard questions, so we replace it with an easy one. Have I heard of it? Do I like it? Does bamboo look cute? Or do I prefer the bears? The red and blue bears. So when we look at things like, as marketers, these big, long purchase journeys, 73 days, 7 steps, here are all the 20% researched on a smartphone at stores. We have to remember a really critical thing, and we often forget it, which is this whole purchase journey is a tiny slice of our lives. In fact, 95% of our time is not spent thinking about brands and not spent in shopping mode. And that's when we make our consideration set for our brands. You hear about bamboo. Here, you're not thinking about toilet paper the rest of the day. You probably weren't thinking about toilet paper when you walked into the room. But at some point, you'll see bamboo and you'll be like, oh, right, Ethan just couldn't shut up about the bamboo. And then you'll laugh, and then maybe you'll actually be, you know what, this time let's buy some. Sure, let's try the bamboo toilet paper. This is when we're often marketing to people and when we are building consideration. But as marketers, especially bottom of funnel people who are focused on customer acquisition, people who are focused on performance marketing, we think that the purchase journey and especially the buying process is all there is, when in fact, it's a tiny, tiny sliver. So let me tell you a little bit about how our brains work. And this is decades of science distilled into something that looks really goofy, but is really helpful. Here's your head. And inside your head, and inside the head of every shopper, is an elephant. And the elephant thinks instinctually. It's the part of your brain that just does things. It's quiet and silent, but it's very strong and big and powerful. It goes on instinct. It goes on history. It's unconscious. It's what drove you here this morning. You probably didn't even remember driving. We can drive now and have an argument with our mom the whole time and not know how the hell we got home. And that's because the elephant is driving the car, not you anymore. Yeah, that's the subconscious that takes over. If anyone's done a sport or an instrument, anyone play an instrument here? I know, Guillermo, you play saxophone. What do you play, Daniel? Guitar. Okay. You're how many years in? 16 years. Stairway to Heaven? Okay, good. Unfortunately. Blackbird? Okay. Freebird? Okay. At some point, you could just do scales in your sleep, right? You can watch CNN and recite the Gettysburg Address and do your scales. The elephant is now playing the guitar. And that's how we shop. Most of us, when we shop, we go and we grab the same stuff. We do as much as we can subconsciously. That's important to remember as a marketer. Now on the elephant is this little puny rider. And the rider is the conscious part of your brain. The rider is the part that only wakes up when the elephant is stuck. Someone sends you to the store to buy something that you don't normally buy. Who is not normally the toilet paper buyer, but had to buy it recently? Anyone? Or who had to buy something for their partner or spouse or kid recently and didn't know what quite to get? Yes? What was it? Pads. You don't use pads, but someone in your household did. And you were like, what am I going to get? Which one did she say? Yeah. Okay. So that's the rider finally waking up. Or when you do actually do the toilet paper math, because there's a sale on, I don't know what, Angel Soft, and you decide you want to try it. And you're like, well, is it really worth it? Because Angel Soft is expensive. I usually get the Target brand. And so now the writer shows up. But the writer is really, really lazy. The writer is logical. The writer is conscious. And the writer talks to us all day, so we think it's the one doing all the driving. But it's not. The writer is the one arguing with your mom while the elephant drives you home. I'm going to prove to you how lazy the writer is. What is 6 times 5? 30. What is 16 times 15? Oh, wait. Pete's got a pen. 3,000? You're guessing. 240, Rick says. You're confident of that? Yeah. Did you do it on paper or your brain? Woo! Nice elephant. 240? Pete, does that check out? Oh. Pete's writing down the bamboo toilet paper. Okay, what's 66 times 55? Who's given up? Okay, right? That's how lazy the writer is. We have that ability. I think we all could probably do that math, but that's how lazy we are. And yet we think consumers give a shit enough to do the math when it comes to our products, to think harder about our stuff. And this applies equally to B2B. This applies equally to luxury brands. This applies equally to services and nonprofits. So no one escapes this. 98% of the thinking is done by the elephant. Only 2% is done by the writer. So first brand law today, I'm just going to give you a couple laws of branding, then we'll talk about levers. Consumers are mental misers. It starts to sound like a fortune cookie, but it's actually a really important law of branding. If you do not operate under the assumption that your consumer, your buyer, your customer, your prospect is a mental miser, you're going to waste a lot of time arguing about how to educate your customer. You're going to waste a lot of time making marketing that's just too complex, way too complex for anyone to give a shit. You're going to ignore things like the sound the door makes when it closes. The auto industry's onto us. The auto industry's onto you. They figured that out. What do you know about your prospect? What's their door sound? What are the subconscious things they use? How can you give them mnemonics or heuristics or shortcuts? If they're not going to do a hard question, they're going to replace it with an easy one. What easy question are you going to give them to replace it with? For instance, some of you might be young and old enough to finish this song. Ready? Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Nice. Okay, who did not know what the hell that was? All right, what was that? Alka-Seltzer. Who still doesn't know what the hell that is? What's Alka-Seltzer? For Akira? Akira. For Akira, what's Alka-Seltzer? It's medicine for hangovers. Great. And Plop Plop Fizz Fizz was an old ad. Oh, what a relief it is was an old TV ad. Here's the beauty of it. It doubled Alka-Seltzer sales because it told people to put 2 tablets in their water. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. And then you drink it. It doubled the sales of their product with a jingle. It rhymes, which helps, right? But come on. That's such a silly, stupid little thing. Now, you could say that those are mass market products with mass market consumers, but you would be mistaken if you think just because someone's wearing a suit or trendy custom jeans that in a B2B world that they operate differently. No, they still like to watch Game of Thrones. So if you do not operate under this assumption that consumers are mental misers, you will be going right over the head of your prospects, and you'll be wasting a lot of time and money on marketing that does not work. Capiche? Okay, law number 1. We good? I've got a couple more I'll show you. I think there's a chart or 2 in here, but they're friendly charts. I don't even think they have numbers, just in case you're allergic. So let's move on. I didn't mute those. Okay, we're going to skip all that stuff. We're going to get to the next law. Some of you might have seen a picture of this gentleman and his sartorial choices. Has anyone seen this photo on the interwebs? The Reddit, the Twitter. What's so funny? What did you catch, Rick? Yeah. What's it do to the monster tattoo drinking Red Bull? And by the way, what's a dude wearing sandals doing wearing socks under them? But that's too normal, unfortunately. Yeah, this is apparently someone who loves Monster enough to get the tattoo. That's a brand loyalist, maybe, and yet he's drinking Red Bull. And we might scoff and laugh at him. Oh, Jim, what a loser, what a maroon. But let's go back to toilet paper. Here are the major brands in America. How many brands have you guys used, let's say, in the past 2 years? Just shout it out. How many of these brands have you used in the past 2 years? Okay. 3, 4, 2, 1, 1, 2. None? That's the bidet user. Or else something else. Who's a super brand loyalist when it comes to toilet paper? Yes. Sharon. What's the brand? Kirkland. Swear by it? Did I get an amen? Kirkland, amen. Anyone else a loyalist to their toilet paper? Love it. Yes, what do you like back there? Charmin. Ultra soft or strong? Ultra soft. You go without. If they're not selling ultra soft, ultra strong. Okay, Charmin Ultra Strong, Charmin Ultra Soft. You swear by it, you die by it, you live by it. Okay. How about the rest of you? Any other loyalists? Okay, this is a great illustration of the fact that another of the cardinal sins of marketers is to think, well, people are just like me. And there are only 3 people or 4 people in this room who are that loyal about their toilet paper. Otherwise, I heard 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 4. And that's actually the norm. The real behavior is we shop around. Some of us sleep around, but we all shop around. Here is a chart that shows you the average number of brands people buy for a bunch of categories. Tobacco's over here on the left, and that's not even at a 1. On average, people buy 1 3/4 brands of tobacco. And then over here you got chocolates, which would be me, almost 6 brands per household. So the norm is people buy more than 1 brand. It gets more complex than that. What happens when they buy more? Here's a chart that shows how big's your repertoire, right? How many brands do you buy compared to how much soda do you drink per year? And this comes from the good people at the Aaron Bergbass Institute for Marketing Science, University of South Australia in Adelaide, Australia, which is a 15-hour drive from Sydney, and about 1 billion light years from any other academic institution in 1980, which is when this stuff was invented. So nobody knows about this because it was invented in the 80s in Australia. But it turns out, when you look at how many brands of soda people buy, the more soda they buy, the more brands they buy. So if you drink 3 sodas a day, it's very likely you're drinking 6 to 7 different brands. Who's really into hot sauce? Couple back there. How many brands of hot sauce do you have? A lot. Like more than 6 times 5. 15. 15 brands. Who else is a hot sauce freak? Yes? How many? 10. Who's into whiskey? Put your hand down, Rick. Who's into whiskey? Mark, how many brands? What'd you have this morning? I get it. I can relate. So this is another common phenomenon, and it's an empirical truth that as marketers either we ignore or we go, la, 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 I don't want to believe it, which is people who are heavier into a category tend to buy more brands in that category. And by default, the most loyal people, 100% loyal, buy the least amount of the category because maybe they only buy 1 bottle of whiskey a year. De facto, you're loyal. Wild turkey it is, I guess. But if you buy 130 sodas a year, it's very unlikely that you only buy 1 brand. So all those Coke and Pepsi wars and people being like, oh, Coke people never drink Pepsi. They'd rather die. They'd rather go like, oh, what's your name in the back? Atul. Rather go like Atul and go without soda than have to buy the enemy. That's the minority. And that's marketing people talking to other marketing people. That's not us talking to each other at dinner. Summarize all of this by this nice little meme. Me, the average banking customer, has 16 financial products. Credit cards, checking accounts, etc. Banks, we average just 2.3 products per customer. Me, interesting. And that's my way to get Batman into a talk. Okay, this is brand law number 4. Brand law number 4 is the law of the widening repertoire, which I love because you can say the widening repertoire. But it starts with the truth that we are repertoire buyers. There are a couple of exceptions that have different math to them. They're not wholly different, but they have a little bit of mathy changes to them. And that is monopolies, of course, and then some subscriptions where you can't buy more than 1. However, even subscriptions on the right time scale are repertoires. Who has a streaming video service? It's many of you. Okay, again, shout out. How many streaming services do you currently subscribe to? 4, 3, 2. Who's loyal to one streaming service? Anyone? I'm Hulu all the way. No, but I got a Hulu tattoo on my calf. Nobody. Yes, you do? You love Netflix. Oh, for me. Awesome. Okay. I want your recommendation afterwards. Okay, Netflix fan. You don't have a Netflix tattoo, though, do you? Okay, good. Okay, have you ever subscribed to another service? You have Hulu as well? Oh my God, you cheated on Netflix? Handmaid's Tale. Well, that's worth it. Okay. Reality isn't harsh enough for you? You need to watch it on fiction as well? It is. The best sci-fi is that way, actually. Okay, so the widening repertoire is the next law I'm going to leave you with. And you need to understand that almost all of your customers and your brands and categories are like this. Even things like accounting firms for the biggest companies, they probably use 1 or 2 or maybe 3, or they switched over the course of the long enough time scale. So that's another mistake a lot of marketers make. We're like, well, in the past 6 months, they didn't change accounting firms. Well, over the past 6 years, maybe they have, or they've shopped around. So some of it's a matter of time scale. You have to get your time scale right. But a lot of it is a matter of looking at the facts, the cold truth that we are repertoire shoppers. We're not switchers. And we're not usually loyalists, except for a tool. Yeah. And you don't have a tag, but the Netflix fanatic. Pam. Thank you, Pam. Okay, we talked about one law when it comes to consumer psychology. What was that law, that first law? Huh? Mental misers. We're mental, yeah. You guys are such mentally lazy people. You don't even remember the first law. I get it. Me too. The second law is what? That's true. But the second law for today is the widening repertoire. Yes, we're repertoire buyers. So that's consumer behavior. And it's really important to look at behavior and attitudes and thinking sometimes differently. One thing I will also recommend is strike the word loyalty from your vocabulary and from your team's vocabulary. It is confusing. It confounds feelings with behavior, and it's nothing but a pit of despair to debate what loyalty really means. If you have 5 subscription services, but you love Disney Plus, are you loyal or not? If you buy Wild Turkey all the time, but you also buy 5 other brands, are you loyal or not? If you love Lamborghini, but you've never bought a Lamborghini, Katie's got one. She's waiting to sell it so she can get her Rivian. If you love Lamborghini, but you never buy it, is that loyalty? So just kill the word loyalty. Move on to repeat purchase, heavy buyers, heavy category buyers. Be more specific, but let's ditch the word loyalty. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about a brand law. This is one of the oldest standing brand laws. It's at least 50 years old. And I'm going to tell it to you in the form of a love story. It's a love story about making sweet love to pizza. Apparently, there are people who really like pizza. I mean, really, really like pizza. You can get this shirt on Etsy and 500 other websites now. You can propose to people with a pizza proposal. You can take your engagement photos in your pizza onesies. By the way, we did all this at Crispin Porter because we worked on Domino's. Full disclosure, I do not own Domino's stock. I wish I did. People have made Domino's pizza wedding cakes, and people have actually used Domino's to save their wedding when their caterer doesn't show up. Better yet, they've actually chosen to cater their wedding with Domino's. So there are people who really love pizza. So the team said, let's do something to support these people, to spread the love, because as we've probably heard a lot, the best thing you can do is make your fans your evangelists and get your audience, your buyers, to be your own sales force, to spread that love. So this is the program they put together. Let's see if you can hear it. Oh, let's go back and try that again. So 1 billion media impressions is a good number. Anyone in PR? What's that dollar value? Roughly, 1 billion media impressions, national TV, Matt Lauer. His stock's down, I know, but I don't know, $100 million maybe for 1 billion impressions is pretty good. Did really well, and all without paid media. So the assumption is what we're going to do is we're going to get some more of this. We're going to get more fanatical love for Domino's. We're going to get the tattoos on the calves again. Maybe, I don't know. Brand science. That's where brand science comes in. So let's look at some brand science. Here's another chart. This one's pretty painless. This shows you how many people, how many households buy how much Domino's a year. So this is the chart. This is what it's going to look like. We have a lot of people that buy 1 Domino's a year. Has anyone in here bought 1 Domino's in the past year? Yeah, a couple of you. Okay. Yeah, more. Okay, quite a few. 2 Domino's. How many people have bought 2 Domino's in the past year? Yeah, okay. Couple. 3, 4, 5. This is 7. Sorry, it keeps going. But it goes all the way out. And of course, the hardcore Domino's people are few and far between. Let's do it this way. How many people have bought only one pizza in the past year? How many people have bought 2 pizzas in the past year? 3? Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we could keep going from there. But it'll be a little, there will be a lump, but it'll peter out to the point where only a couple people, usually college students who do not come to Denver Startup Week to hear me talk, get 50 pizzas a year. That is what the chart looks like of buyer frequency. It's called the negative binomial distribution. We don't use those terms, just like we don't use the Gaussian distribution. We call it a bell curve. So there's a better name for this. By the way, this is the average number of pizzas. The average is a terrible statistic for a chart that's not a bell curve. Because really, does that capture what it looks like? That's the average, is like 6 pizzas a year? No, it doesn't really capture it the way the average height captures height of the people in this room. But this is fitted quite well by a banana. So as Weimar Schneider says, we should call this the banana curve. He's a brand scientist from Europe, and he actually passes out bananas at his talks. I don't know if you would prefer that today, but you didn't get it. You get me instead of him. What does growth look like? What does it look like to do a great campaign, an award-winning, successful campaign for Domino's like the wedding registry? What does that do to your distribution of buyers? Well, it looks like this. You get more buyers on every bar. That's what you get. You don't get a different shape. You don't get flattening out or pushing people up to the top. You get more buyers in every bar, and in fact, you get the most growth from your lightest buyers. It's the opposite of tattoos. It's the opposite of tattoos. This is also fitted quite well by a banana. So Weimar is right. This is the banana curve. And if the bell curve, the Gaussian gets a nickname like the bell curve, then the banana, the negative binomial should get a nickname. So we're going to call this the banana curve from now on and giggle every time we do because it's funny. What we don't see in the wild is a graph like this where you have lots of heavy users and no light users. People think this is what Harley Davidson's distribution looks like. Nope. Or this, where you've got equal numbers of light, medium, and heavy users. You might think of that for a good, strong, solid brand like Charmin. Nope. Charmin has the exact same curve. And I've worked with P&G, many of their divisions. They didn't believe it until they saw it with their own eyes on their own data. So I recommend if you look at your own data of buyers, you're very likely to see a banana curve because it is a universal law that's been known for 50 years. There are lots and lots of lessons. Sometimes I do a whole day workshop with clients just on the banana curve and the implications, the dynamics, how to strategize and how to target. But there's one headline I will leave with you today, and the headline is that penetration is consistently 5 to 15 times more important to brand growth than frequency. Some would say loyalty We don't use that word. We don't talk about loyalty. No, no. So Bain and company did some research around the world to back up what the academics say, because business doesn't trust academia and academia doesn't trust business. Tale as old as time. But everywhere they look, penetration is consistently 5 to 15 times more important to brand growth than frequency. And when you look at the curve, you remember they go in lockstep. It all goes up, which means your average scooches out just a little bit, but your household penetration goes up too, and it goes up more. Which takes us to the next brand law. This, you're right, Thomas. You said Thomas, so I figured you want us to call you Thomas. Or is it Tomas? Thomas? White dude Thomas. Brand law number 6, and yes, I am bouncing around today. This is just part of my curriculum. It's the banana curve. And if you want to get technical, you can call it the negative binomial distribution. But it's the banana curve of buyers. And if you do not understand, this is a natural law, you will freak out when you seem to have low loyalty. Or you will freak out when you look and you realize most of your buyers are light buyers. Or you will freak out if you do a campaign and you don't push people down to be suddenly really heavy buyers of whiskey because they only bought one last time. So you can waste a lot of money trying to bust the curve. Okay. Final law here is about an entire category. We talked about psychology, buyer behavior, a brand, and now let's look at the whole category. And this comes really hot off the heels of the last one, so this is a short one. It's kind of a gimme. But when you look at the whole category together, let's say on the bottom axis here, you've got household penetration, how many households buy the brand. And on the y-axis, you've got frequency, how many times, what's the average purchase frequency? Even though we know the average isn't great, sometimes it's still used. You find that the biggest brands, as noted by the big size of the circle, are out here with high penetration and high frequency. This is data, again, from the Ehrenberg Bass Institute this is shampoo in the UK. But again, it's been shown to show up everywhere else. Here's the next biggest brand. So this is probably Pantene. That's probably Head & Shoulders. Head & Shoulders has slightly less penetration. And then here are the other brands in the market that go down to the smallest one here. And what you notice, first of all, is that's a pretty tight line there. It's a pretty tight curve. There's over a 90% correlation between market share, penetration, and repeat. There's over a 90% correlation usually between those three things. And this law is called the law of double jeopardy. And they call it double jeopardy because small brands are punished or penalized twice, or suffer twice. Double jeopardy. Smaller brands, smaller market share brands have lower household penetration, and they also have lower repeat. It's a statistical law in every category: luxury, services, entertainment, recreation, etc., etc. Bambinos, Bam Bamboo. Bam Bamboo is a small brand that might have a passionate following on, I don't know, TikTok these days or Instagram. Come on, Mufa, you have a relationship with them. Where's their strongest social media presence? Not sure? You found it on Amazon, but you don't know if they're on social media channels. And you have a relationship with them. What kind of relationship is this? Okay. That's fair. You have a lazy brain just like me. So that brand might have some very vocal people who love them, but it is very likely to have lower penetration and lower market share. So do not believe the hype when people say they're these small passion brands which have a mad fandom and keep them afloat, because that would be like pushing water uphill. Defies the laws of brand physics. It defies the double jeopardy law. So there are your laws. I think I have a little illustration of them. Mental misers, the widening repertoire, the banana curve, double jeopardy. So there are your 4 laws for today that we'll cover. There are a few others which I've skipped. And of course, I took out all the numbers because who's got time for that? I ain't got time for that. But there's an interesting issue, which is, I don't know, let's take cars again. Who has a Subaru? Anyone? Katie, back to you again. Mark, you've got one. William, you've got a Subaru. What was your last brand of car? Volvo, so you switched over. Laura, do you have a Subaru? What was your last brand? Suzuki. Katie, what was your last brand? Honda, so you've all switched to Subaru. Mark? Chevy. Okay. Subaru actually has a really high repeat purchase rate, 60%. In cars, that's really good. Now, according to Double Jeopardy, the biggest brand should have the highest repeat. And who knows what the biggest car brand in America is? Ford. Yeah. F-150, number 1 selling vehicle in America, 12 years in a row. Ford, and then the next one is Toyota. Huge brands. Because of Double Jeopardy, we can already predict, without even looking at their data, they've got great household penetration and pretty good repeat. So they also have about a 55% repeat. Subaru only has about a 30% penetration, but they have a 60% repeat, really high. Dodge, who has a Dodge? Anyone? Anyone have a Dodge? Yes, you have a Dodge. What was your previous car? Oh, it's a camper van. Okay. What's your next camper van going to be? A Ford, not a Dodge. Not a Dodge. Dodge has a 30% repeat purchase rate. Thank you for proving my point. That was perfect. I'll Venmo you after. They both have the same market share, so you would predict they should have similar repeat purchase, but they don't. Subaru has twice the repeat purchase rate of Dodge. Twice. There's a very technical word for this, so if you looked at that curve, they're not on that line, there's wiggle. And there's a lot of wiggle around these laws. The academics, they scoff. They say, those are minor deviations. Don't worry, the laws still hold. But there's billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars in the wiggle. There's a lot of wiggle. There's a lot of wiggle. I mean, look at all that wiggle. That's a shit ton of wiggle. That's a crap ton of wiggle. That's millions and billions of wiggle right there. So there's a lot of money to be made up in the wiggle, even though there are these laws. And that's because, and I'm going to give you a little metaphor here, and then we'll move on to the levers, and then we'll wrap up for some questions. The laws of brands are like the laws of physics. If you want to enjoy the miracle of flight, it's good to adhere to the laws of physics. Would you agree? I want a plane that adheres to the laws of physics when I fly. But if you adhere to the laws of physics, doesn't tell you whether you should build the flying pancake or this NASA plane, which looks like it was commissioned by Fisher-Price, or Darth Blimp. Actually, it's Darth Balloon. This Dronocopter. That's a single-seater right there. Sorry, just one person. Virgin Galactic did this to get their spaceships into space. The tandem. Who thought of building a tandem in the sky? Or this abomination, the Sky Tick. That's what I call it, at least. But that's apparently, it can carry like 200 tons of cargo. Not very far, but so yeah, Boeing is making the Sky Tick as we speak. So there's a lot of wiggle in how you design an airplane, just like there's a lot of wiggle in different cars or different brands, and a lot of money to be captured there. And that's where levers come in. And levers are creative or strategic. I'm not even going to talk about the levers around the other 4 Ps, price, product, place. I'm just going to talk about promotional levers, advertising and marketing ones. I did a lot of time in advertising. There are lots of beliefs about how advertising works and doesn't work. Here's the truth. There are many levers in advertising. I'm going to give you a little quick illustration of some of those levers in advertising using a brand I know, Domino's, because they're really good at using many different levers in how they advertise. Here's one. They use trends. Does anyone remember when Domino's was the first brand to let you order via emoji on Twitter? That's pretty cool. You do the pizza emoji, you get your saved order. They do big symbolic acts, like Fearless Girl. But in this case, it was Fearless Pizza Delivery Car with a pizza oven built in. They play with pop culture. This is a lovely mashup of Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Stranger Things that they put on TV. They do humor, lots of it, because even when you're at the airport bar, it's kind of funny to see someone slip on their ass on the ice and care more about their pizza than they care about their car. They do utility. Anyone use the Domino's Pizza Tracker? It's pretty slick. Tells you where in the process your pizza is. They use brutal honesty. This is Karen. I know Karen. 12 years ago when their pizza was rated the worst pizza in America, she went on TV and said so. Said, yep, this tastes like cardboard. The crust tastes as bad as the cardboard box it came in. And she went on TV, mea culpa, ate crow, and said, we need to do better. And that was their version of new and improved. They do playfulness, as you saw in the wedding registry. And they did this. This was the last campaign I worked on at Crispin Porter. I loved this when the creatives came back and said, let's pave potholes so that people can get their pizza home safer. I was like, that's nuts, let's do it. And the clients said the same thing. They're like, that's nuts, let's do it. And sure enough, we started paving potholes, and what happened? The press picked it up and said, Domino's is fixing America's crappy roads for pizza safety, and that's pretty embarrassing. At the time, presidential hopeful and American Senator Bernie Sanders tweeted about our campaign. It should not be up to Domino's to repair our country's infrastructure. Today, the United States spends less on infrastructure as a percent of GDP than any time in the past 2 decades. This is a despicable disgrace. I don't know if that's Larry David or Bernie Sanders. Thank you. Thank you. I've got another set later tonight. And then, of course, every time we went to a new town and paved a pothole, it got picked up on the local news. South Bend 5, or 13, sorry, South Bend 13. Domino's is coming to town to pave your pothole so your pizza can get home safe. They're advertising for us. So, that was great. That was an amazing campaign. And not only did we have all of that buzz, but they supported it with $40 million of TV. So not too shabby. Good 1-2 punch. And it grew a lot. And now that you all know the banana curve, you know what that growth looks like as well. And because of Double Jeopardy, you also know that when I say that Domino's is the largest pizza company in the world, you know that they have higher penetration than anyone else and higher repeat purchase probably than anyone else. But that penetration is how they did it. Penetration is how they did it. So, all this gets to a bonus law. Oh, yeah, go ahead. So the question is, can you repurpose an old brand spot? The answer is yes, indubitably, because we've all forgotten more than we've ever seen on TV. And unless it's like on Hulu when you see the same goddamn ad 3,000 times, things wear out a lot slower in the world than they do for us marketers. So wear out is a lot lower than us marketers usually believe. And the best campaigns are the longest lived. Has anyone heard the term brand equity? Does anyone know what equity actually means? You've invested in the shit so it grows in value. And it means you have to invest over time, like a house. You put equity into it. So yeah, reuse those old spots. So I love the campaigns that repurpose and rebuild old memories in the brain, because we don't got time to think about someone's new rebranding. Klondike just did that. What's the Klondike bar campaign? What would you do for a Klondike bar? It's like a 40-year-old campaign, and they finally brought it back because my own aunt brought it up recently, serving Klondikes. She hasn't seen an ad in 30 years, but it still lives rent-free in her brain. It's great. So yeah, repurpose that shit. Hell yeah. Okay, final bonus law, and then we'll wrap up. Be interesting. This is the cardinal rule. Again, it sounds like a fortune cookie, but this is brand science about marketing, especially not marketing, promotional work, advertising, PR, stunts, content. Someone recently said, if you pronounce that the other way, it's so much better. Content. Content. Let's do brand content. That's so much better. So be interesting. As Martin Weigel said, he's a well-known planner in the planning world from Widening Kennedy, who does all the Nike spots. He said, one can be relevant as hell and still be boring as fuck. So an amended law for you is be interesting for fuck's sake. And with that, I'm going to wrap up about laws and levers, 50 years of brand science summarized, with time to go grab some lunch before the next talk. This is how to reach me. This is the kind of stuff I do for my day job. Talks, trainings, and of course, fixing brands themselves. So I think we're a little late, but I am glad to chat with anyone afterwards if you'd like to come up and talk to me and ask questions and say hello. Thank you for coming. Thanks, Slalom, again. And enjoy the rest of your day.